You're looking to buy a high quality blog or a passion website, like a lot of us here in our digital investor community are, because that is the sweet spot at the moment, then today's special guest can certainly help you out with that. Today on the Digital Investors Podcast, I'm really pleased to have along Chelsea Clark. She is the founder of nicheinvestor.com, which is a boutique website buying and selling platform. Sorry, Chelsea. And also, Chelsea is the founder of Her Paper Rich. So she's been around for a long time in the industry, buying and selling websites. And these days, as I mentioned, she started nicheinvestor.com. So, Chelsea, welcome aboard the Digital Investor Podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. And Chelsea, it's great being chatting to you about Niche Investor and your background and everything, and in particular, the sorts of listings that you have on the website. But just briefly, what is your background? How did you get into buying and selling websites or buying and selling blogs in particular?
Well, I started out like many of us online to start as a blogger back in the day. And I always did it just as a hobby for fun. And I was working in marketing and I was working in a business brokerage. And the brokers were all only focused on brick and mortar businesses. And
Yeah.
I thought, hey, that's really interesting. I have an interest there, but I don't necessarily want to sell brick and mortar. And so I thought, hey, I could apply what I know about the digital space to M&A. And that's kind of how I fell into it. And I have, like you mentioned, Her Paper Route, I have this community of content creators at that business. And they started asking me when I would share, oh, like I just bought this site and this is what I did to it. And then I sold it. And they started asking, wait a minute, how? What did you do? How did you buy something for 1,000 and sell it for 20,000? Walk me through those steps. So that's really how it started, just very organically, just by answering my community. And then I launched the platform as a safe place where our community could buy and sell websites. And it just started to
Cool.
grow from there.
That's awesome. By the way, it's a very similar background to Liz and I. We started in M&A, bricks and mortar, but before that, buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses ourselves, and then doing M&A, and then we decided to go to the digital space. So that is really cool. And what I love about your story, Chelsea, or your background, you're very similar to a lot of our community members here at eBusiness, where we train beginners. So I think this, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a beginner, Chelsea's story and her site, particularly Niche Investor, is set up precisely for you, because your specialty, or as you just mentioned, was buying relatively small sites, which are perfect for beginners, and then
Yeah.
selling them out for 40 to 50 grand, sort of keeping in that sort of a space.
Yeah, and that's really how I got started. When I wanted to get into this world, I didn't have a ton of startup money, so I started small.
Awesome.
And
Yep.
I just did everything, bootstrapped it organically as I could in the beginning, and then monetizing it with affiliate revenue, digital products, ad revenue when the traffic gets up, and it
Right.
any bit of income that would come in, I just put it back into the business, and you got advertising going, and then that's sort of kicked it up, and then it was worth more. Sold that, was able to buy a bigger site. So I know when people hear, oh, someone bought a site, that could feel kind of scary if they've never done it before, or if they don't have a ton of, cash just lying around for that first investment, that could seem kind of intimidating. But just knowing that you can start small and then grow and reinvest over time, that's what I find really exciting and fun. And a lot of people in our community too are beginners, and they don't have to stay a beginner for long. If you want to learn, there's so much out there to learn, and
Yep.
you can become experienced at it within a year or two, just if you're putting the effort in. So that's another thing I really enjoy about this industry too.
Hey, and Chelsea, before we go, I really want to obviously talk about Niche Investor, and our community wants to hear about it as well, by the way. But when you started and your kind of strategy, when I was reading your journey and looking at the sorts of sites that you've bought, you seem to go a lot quicker than Liz and I. Like you're an actual website flipper. Is that right? So what's your average holding time like till you sell?
Well, it's a good question to ask because I get bored if I'm working on for something too long.
Okay.
That's part of the reason why I have a portfolio of sites in different niches at the same
Yep.
time. so that I can jump from a project in the same week. I can be focused on something in the home decor space, and then, oh, I'm bored of that. And then I jump into
Yep.
something else. And I find that having that is really great for my style of learning and the way that my brain works. So that's one reason. But then also, flipping is very fun for me too, because if I get bored of something to the point that I feel like I've taken it as far as I can, or I'm just not interested in working on it anymore, that's just
Mhm.
like this easy way to get out of it, to make a bit of a profit on it, and then just have that money to put into one of the sites that I am more feeling called to at the time. So that's something that I find that's very freeing, and creatively freeing too.
Yeah.
So that's why I would
Yep.
say I would start as a flipper. And then I do have some sites that I plan to hold, with no intention to sell. I'll knock on wood because you never know, that could change at any time. But for the
Yep.
most part in my portfolio,
Yep.
half of the sites I hold will be the project sites that I'm working on with the intention to sell anywhere from 6 months to a year. And then the other ones I'll probably
Wow.
hold on for longer and maybe not even sell those. We'll kind of see how that goes.
Okay. And the sorts of sites that you are typically, you know, buying and flipping and building up, what I guess what are your favorite kinds? That's a better question. What are your preferred kinds to buy?
Personally, I like to buy sites in niches that I have experience in, or at least some sort of interest in that I'm willing to learn about.
Mm.
Because no matter what, if you're buying a site and you personally aren't interested in that niche, it's going to be really a lot harder to monetize it and grow it as opposed to something that you're interested in. And
Yep.
that goes for any niche. So we always hear, personal finance niches, they're so great to make money and they're so easy to monetize. But if you don't have any personal finance interest or experience in your life, you personally might have a hard time with it. So for me, I'm not going to go buy a website all about cars because I don't even drive. I don't know anything about cars. And I have, my if my uncles are listening, they're gonna like not like to hear that because they're all car guys. But I'm not gonna go put my money into something that I am not gonna enjoy writing about constantly, consistently,
Okay.
coming up with digital products about. So I like to focus on things like home decor, tech, author. Like I just wrote a book, so I'm really interested in book promotion and book marketing, things like that. A little bit of food too. I have some sites in different food niches and
Nice.
food specialties like vegan, or gluten-free, stuff like that. So I'll dip into different niches, kind of see if I like it, and then flip it if I don't, or really if I catch an interest in something, I'll work on it for a little bit longer. But yeah, I'll jump all over the map when it comes to niches.
So you tend to, because what we teach our guys, and for anyone listening here, I highly recommend this, exactly what Chelsea's saying, but we come at it from a business viewpoint. We like to buy passion sites and where people have set up websites in a specific passion, like they're passionate about golfing or cars. We've owned a
Mhm.
few car websites over the years, guitar and stuff. But for you personally, you like to make sure that passion is something that you're personally interested in yourself.
Well, when buying a site, I think it's great if the seller had a passion for what the content
Yeah.
that they wrote. And it's kind
Yeah.
of like finding a diamond in the rough. If the seller of that site maybe was very well educated around that niche, they're very passionate about it, but maybe they're not necessarily the best at monetization or marketing. And then that's when you have this golden opportunity to take something that has really great original content that was written by a very passionate hobbyist, and then you can apply your marketing skills and interest to it to grow the site further. But I still personally, I should have some sort of interest in the niche as well when I take it on. That's just
And
my, yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, that's really good advice. I think, and it makes it easier, particularly if for beginners starting
Yes.
this journey. And do you have an example of like one of your first success stories? Can you remember back, like do you have a favorite example, like just a smallish one that would be relevant to our listeners?
Yeah, well, the first site that I sold was one that I started from scratch, and I sold it on just before it turned 1 year old, for $40,000. And at that time, that was like, oh, now I'm going to be rich. That's like
Oh,
freedom
yep.
money at that time. So that was like a really great jumping off point to get into this and kind of catch the bug for it. And then a site that was one of my favorites that I purchased later on was a site, I think I paid about $8,000 for it. It was a digital
Yep.
products business selling templates, like Canva templates.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought it right before Black Friday, and it came with an email list. So when I acquired it, I was like, okay, I'm going to capitalize on this timing and run a Black Friday sale directly to the list that had already, the customers that are already there, the subscribers that are already there. And I was able to have a very successful, very quick flash Black Friday sale, hold that site for just 3 months, and then I sold it for $130,000 just about 3 months later.
So
So
within,
that was, yes, that was a very
right.
good and rare. It doesn't happen all the time, but it was just like with
Yeah.
the timing around Black Friday, it worked out so well. So that's always one of my
Wow.
favorite
So
flips.
that is a legendary story. I'm glad we recorded it so everyone knows. What a legend. Go, Chelsea. So within 3 months, you flipped it for how much? Sorry? Uh,
So I sold it for $130,000.
nice.
I bought it for about 8,000. I think it might have been
8,000.
830. And then, but during that Black Friday sale, I was able to generate $25,000 over
All right.
November and
So you
December.
made about
Um,
150 grand.
yeah, so it was a good profit just because of that.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
impressive. Okay, that is super cool. There we go. And did you have to do much in terms of renovating the site to get it?
No, I didn't. That site didn't really need a renovation. It was actually looking really good. It was maybe a little bit slow, so I did a little bit of SEO work and just cleaning up some old plugins and things like that, but it didn't need too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that it it was good.
Now we're going off topic. I'm meant to be talking to you
That's
about
okay.
niche
This is
investor,
fun. I love
but
talking about this. So ask me
yeah,
anything. Yeah.
this is really cool. This because so would you say when you look back at that now, so very smart move for our listeners. What Chelsea's done is really smart. Opportunistically taken money off the table, and let's not kid ourselves, Chelsea. What a legendary effort! 130 grand plus 20 grand while you own it. But would you say when you look back at it now, was that your did you just buy really well? Like you found a true diamond in the roughs? Did someone else like was it just basically a hidden listing or something somewhere?
No, it wasn't a hidden listing. It was someone in our community. She was ready to offload it. She didn't want to create templates anymore. And
I
it was just, yeah, she was just ready to sell it. And at that time, it hadn't been making too much money in the past 3 to 6 months. She hadn't been running any sales or, kind of pushing anything to that community that she had.
Yep,
And the community was where I saw the gold mine was to
in the
be able
list.
to email them and run those promotions to the people that already were warmed up to that business. And yeah, that was the strategy behind that deal.
So the success around that one, and this is really important for our community, Chelsea, because we teach
Yeah.
when you buy a website, one of the rules is it's got to come with a community these days because of all the changes with AI and Google. And so we're recording this now in late 2025. So the success with that was so it wasn't so much even the price, which sounds awesome by the way, at 8 grand, but it was because the power of that community and the really
Absolutely.
engaged email list too, was it?
It was the email list, yes. So now whenever I'm buying sites, I always look for a warm email list, active email list. That to
The
me is the
same.
most important thing. Well, and quality original content on the site itself, of course, that is key as well. But when those two things come together, that's when you really are cooking with something.
Awesome. That is so cool. Well done. Well, so that obviously led you into setting up Niche Investor, I'm guessing, or what did lead you to setting up nicheinvestor.com?
Yeah, well, I started it in 2019 and it was just based on because I was enjoying the creative process of buying and selling sites myself and then letting my email list know about it. And it just naturally, when people were saying, "Hey, where should I sell my site?" I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll create somewhere for you to sell your site. So we
Right.
just launched it really organically that way. And it started just through word of mouth. We didn't do any paid advertising for, I think, for the first 2 years. It was all just to my newsletter at Her Paper Route, that community, and some Facebook marketing, like going into Facebook groups and looking when someone was like, "Hey, I want to sell my site," or "I want to buy a site." I would pop in and just be like, "Hey, hi, I'm Chelsea," like,
Yeah.
and send
Cool.
them to where they could get their evaluation. And then the coolest thing was that with our small first group of customers, people that on both sides, buyer and seller, they started telling their friends. They started commenting on our Facebook posts saying that they had a good experience and recommending other people. And it grew that way. And to me, that was the most awesome, most special thing was that really great reputation that we started to build. And as I say, we were bootstrapping everything. So having those early people saying nice things about us, I really
Yeah.
believe that that is what gave us that kickstart.
Well, and let's look through today because, looking over nicheinvestor.com, and we'll put the link in the show notes, but you've got some great listings, which I think would be of great interest to our community members here at eBusiness Institute. Do you want to talk us through how Niche Investor works and I guess like the ethos behind it? Because it's a little bit different to some of the other brokerage firms out there.
Yes. So the people that are on our team, our listing agents, they are all content creators as well. They are all
Nice.
blog flippers as
Yeah.
well as working for Niche Investor. So they know the ins and outs of this industry. If a client has a question about why this isn't working with their, DNS or something that seems
Yep.
like so out of the ballpark, our agents usually can just be like, oh, it's because of this. And they just answer it right away. So being able to give that personal customer service is something that we really, really pride ourselves on. And anyone that I bring onto the team, I make sure that they've been blogging for a long time. They're not just interested in being a virtual assistant. They actually have a passion for creating content and growing in this industry as well. So that is the first thing. And then when someone wants to come and sell their site at Niche Investor, they get a free valuation. It's a very simple form to fill out,
Mm.
and it puts them in touch with us. They fill out their profit and loss sheet, and we give them a initial valuation and selling range of what we potentially could see. And I know there's a lot of talk out there in the world where people want these really big, they get these big valuations and they think, oh, I'm going to get this big price for it, but we really want people to understand the realistic of what's going on with the market right now, what the site is actually worth on a 6-month basis. Because as we've talked about before, like there has been so many industry changes that have affected things. So when
Yeah.
we're looking at a site, if it has Pinterest traffic, that's a good thing. If it has a little bit of
Yeah.
social traffic from other places, that's a good thing. If it has an email list, that's a really good thing. And we
Really
take
good thing.
all of those things into our consideration and give our sellers a really sort of wide valuation where they can see, hey, if you want a quick sale, we could price it on this low end here. If you're willing to wait, then you may have a better chance here. And we kind of see what the market comes back to us first. And so we have our community of buyers and investors
Mhm.
on Niche Investors newsletter as well. And as soon as we get a new listing, we push that out to them. We have people who can sign up, and it's all free. They can sign up to be notified about specific niches, monetization types that they want to see. And then we'll let those people know first when we have a listing that fits that. That's another thing that we can do because we are a small brokerage is we know we can just be like, oh, Jim, he likes these kind of sites. We'll reach out to Jim right away before a site even hits the market. And we've actually been able to sell sites that way quite a bit just because of this community that we have. And we don't charge for that. I would also say that at the end of the day, because we are small, we just get to have a closer relationship with our buyers and sellers, which
Yep.
we might not be able to
Yeah.
do forever, but for the time being, it's a really nice thing that we all enjoy all on our team being able to have that closeness with our people.
Well, I think what's great for our community and for any buyer for that matter, you're to a large degree the listings on investors, sorry, on Niche Investor are curated. So you've done a bit of your team have already done a bit of pre-due diligence, like you said, because they're all bloggers themselves. So on these blogs that
Yeah.
you're selling there, you guys have done like how much are we allowed to say here? Like, have you done
Yeah,
lots of
no, we can
pre-due diligence, a
absolutely
little bit of pre-due diligence?
We can
Yeah.
absolutely talk about that. So, disclaimer, I mean, I should just say no matter what, no matter where you're buying a site from, people who are
Yes.
listening, no matter what brokerage, the due
Yeah,
diligence still comes back to you, the buyer. So you have to make sure that
absolutely.
you are satisfactory with everything and you've asked all the questions. You can
And
never
I will
just,
jump in there, Chelsea, and say,
yeah,
if you're new to our podcast, we teach this at eBusiness Institute. That's what we're all
there you
about.
go.
We're about empowering people to do website due diligence, so that you can go and
Yes.
buy blogs on places like Chelsea's niche investor site. So yeah, so what is the level of pre-due diligence that you guys do for
Yes, so we will
your
look at all of the revenue. We'll look at the screenshots. If you're with an ad network, we'll make sure that we can verify those numbers, that
Yep.
we've seen the screenshots. We'll do walkthroughs like screen shares with sellers as well. We get added to the Google Analytics. We'll just make sure that all of those things are aligned. And when we're looking through everything, that's all going to come into play to make sure like, oh, this makes sense. Or if there's a revenue stream that doesn't really seem to make sense, like why is it on the P&L? We're going to have that conversation with the seller to work that out before anything goes public.
Yep.
That's really, really important to me. And also being able to verify that they really do own the domain. That's also
Yeah,
very important too.
that's kind of important. I
Yes,
think
very
to,
important. And we actually deny more sites than we approve
yeah.
just because we really want a certain level of quality. Not to say that, any sites we've denied are bad quality. It's just that we have a certain level that we're trying to upkeep. And of course, we sell starter sites too. So we're going to have some sites that aren't, the most amazing site in the world because they're just getting started. But when it comes to our established listings, it's a lot more due diligence than just the newer starter sites that are coming up.
Okay, yeah, and I think I will point out for everyone here and to yourself, Chelsea, I think there's an inherent level of due diligence that you guys do because, like you said, all your team are expert content creators and bloggers themselves. So they kind of, there's a level of when I'm presuming when you, like you said, you reject. How many deals do you reject? Were you telling me? How many submissions a week do you get?
I would say, well, the summer's a little bit slower. We're recording in summer right now, but throughout the year, the average, we get about 150 to 100 listings submitted for potential listings during the week, and we'll probably take 40 to 50%. And that fluctuates throughout the year. So as I say right now, we're onboarding about 5 to 10 a week. Towards
Nice.
Christmas, it gets a little bit busier. We're onboarding more
That's
towards the
good.
end of the year when everyone tries to, make their tax write-off purchases before the
Yep.
year ends. That's our busy
Uh,
season.
Big tip, listeners, it's a great time to be buying as well in the new year when people haven't been able to sell their sites and they just want the cash.
True.
So, and in your northern hemisphere, it's a bit more depressing then because it's snowing or cold and everyone's just
True.
here in Australia, we notice it's a great time to buy websites in that time. But I think coming back to the due diligence, what I like about your side is because all your guys and yourself as such, come from a blogging background, it looks to me like you've got very high quality listings and you do, like you said, you reject 50% of them anyway. And it's probably a large part due to you and your team being actual bloggers rather than just outright brokers.
Yeah.
It's got to pass what, how would you word? It's got to pass the first sweep of you and your team, I would imagine. As legitimate bloggers, you look at this site and go, yeah, something's not quite right there. So you probably reject it. I'm guessing that's how it's going on. But
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And when we're looking at it, we're thinking, well, we look, where's the traffic coming from? If it's
yep.
all tier one countries, okay, that's good because we know it's going to be good for our buyers to get it onto a different ad network. They'll have a better chance of growing it. If the traffic is all from a country that, a Mediavine ad network doesn't monetize, then that's not going to be very good for our buyers. So those details come into play when we're considering taking on a listing.
That's cool. All right. So that's big advantage number one to anyone listening to this podcast. Big advantage number two that I see for our community is I really like the niche that you've gone into because of your background. That's why your background story is so important, Chelsea. The price range that you typically sell on there. I notice you've got some really good starter beginner ones down around the 5 grand level. What's this sweet spot for you guys in terms of selling these blogs?
Personally, over the years, when I've looked at what the sweet spot would be, I've noticed that it falls between 10,000 to 50,000. That's like the
Exactly
best
what
kind
we
of,
teach. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the bread and butter, as like the real estate agent, industry says. That's
Yeah.
like where the listings really fly off the shelves a lot faster, or at least it's just the people that are asking for listings, they're asking for ones in that range.
Yeah.
So there's going to be more higher, lower, and as I say, we've got starter sites too, which can be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. Once in a while, we'll take on the larger listings that are a couple $100,000, but it's really the 10 to 50 that we so far have had our best successes with.
That is awesome, Chelsea. For our listeners in our community, you guys now you need to check out Chelsea's site, don't you? That is unreal because we literally teach that as being the sweet spot, particularly this year. You know, with all the changes in the algorithms, because it's a relatively not, you know, there's got to be a usual disclaimer here, but it's a relatively safe space to be buying websites as well. And it sounds like it's a really good sweet spot. Again, come back to your background for website flippers, people that maybe have built a site, got a bit of a traffic, and they can quickly flip them on niche investor. What is the selling time? Like how long is it in that sweet spot, you know, the 10 to 50K? What are you seeing
Yeah.
sites, you know, good quality sites, how quick do they sell?
Yeah, so if it's matching one of the buyer's buy boxes that they've told us they want and the traffic is diversified and organic, it could sell the week that it's listed.
Nice.
It's we're noticing it could take anywhere from a month to 3 months, if it still has, good traffic and good revenue and all the numbers make sense. But sometimes the bigger sites like the drop shipping sites, e-commerce ones, they can take a little bit longer to sell. And I think that's because those ones have to be so much more particular to the buyer. They have to be interested in keeping up either that service or that product that is a physical product that they have to market and sell moving forward. Whereas, the digital product sites, the content sites, there's a lot more flexibility there. So it seems like our buyers are just quicker to take on those ones.
And do those ones, like I know with the e-commerce and obviously there's often seller finance, with the
Mhm.
digital product sites and the content sites, for listeners looking to, buy, can they get seller finance deals on those or is it
Oh
what
yes, absolutely.
okay,
100% yes. And
good,
all the asking prices on our site are open to offers and negotiation.
good.
And if it's an established site, most of our sellers are open to hearing offers that include seller financing. If it's a starter site, that's usually just the flat price if it's under 5,000. But if we're
Yeah, that's
talking above that, then it
yeah.
would make sense in a lot of deal situations where seller financing can, help both sides. Can be good for the seller as well from a tax perspective. If they don't want to take
Yeah.
a big lump sum in 1 year, it's
Yeah.
might maybe more beneficial to split it over 2 years or even 3 years. And we're seeing that happen a lot more since the pandemic. It's been 5 years now. So when I say that, it seems like it's only
Yeah.
been a year or two
Yeah.
away, but really, we're seeing more seller financing deals nowadays. And I'm a big supporter of it. I buy sites that way personally too. I
Yeah.
get it.
Same.
I think it's good.
Yeah. Do you want to, can you share via an example, like how it works for total beginners if you're new here? How does
Yeah,
seller financing work? What's a typical
definitely.
deal that you might see?
So seller financing allows a buyer to own the site, take it on, but not pay the whole price up front. They can pay it in a sort of a payment plan in installments, and every deal is different. It's worked out between the parties involved, but of course our team helps facilitate that. But usually a buyer would pay a down payment of a price that they have cash, they're ready to go, and then over time they'll pay down the rest of the balance. And that's called seller financing because the seller is, you don't have to go to a bank to get a loan. The seller is allowing you to do that and you're paying them over time. Now, in some deals, you'll pay a percent, so some interest to the seller, and
Yep.
that way the seller gets a little bit of a kickback. But if it's a smaller deal, sometimes sellers are just happy to be like, okay, we can do a payment plan and we don't need to charge interest. Unless you're saying you want it to go for like 4 or 5 years, there's probably going to be interest
There's
on
going
that
to
because
be
that's a long
interest. Yeah.
time for someone to let you have it without them being able to have that income themselves.
Yeah, and typical numbers we've seen, like on, say a $50,000 website, someone, if it's a really good one, you might negotiate, pay half down, 25K, and
Yeah.
then 5 grand a month for 5 months or something like that. It's a very simple thing to negotiate and work out. And obviously you guys, yeah, can assist buyers with those sorts of deals.
Absolutely. Yes, we facilitate a lot of those kind of deals. And I think it, just like I say, it can be positive for both sides, win-win.
Yep. That's awesome. All right, cool. So what in this is an interesting marketplace for, content sites and digital products. So you and I still love them, and as do people in our community. And but things have changed. So
Mhm.
what are you seeing right now? And we're late 2025 here. What's working really well in that space?
Yeah, so personally, from what I've seen and what's been working in, my own sites as well, is diversified traffic, sites
Yep.
that are not counting on Google, because after HCU
Yep.
really did that big shakeup, it was the content creators that didn't give up, the ones that were able to diversify or really focus
Yep.
on their email marketing or focus on their Pinterest marketing as well. Really, with Pinterest SEO, we see that's a great organic traffic source.
Okay. Yep.
Those creators are the ones who are still in the game. So being able to, like we said at the beginning, your email list is so important, but having those two things together and maybe a membership that could be a
Yes.
community or Facebook groups, things like that, anywhere where you have engagement and active people coming back to the site, clicking, reading your emails, that adds value. That really does. That makes your site have that longevity and it's attractive to a buyer. So buyers, I know a lot of them got scared off during HCU, the ones that were like, oh, we can only, we can't buy sites because it's not getting Google traffic anymore. And so part of something I had to do, and I wrote about this, like I just published a book called Glow Up Yourself, all about the industry and, what it's been like building a business as a content creator and, M&A. And the buyers, I had to educate them to say, you know what? Google is kind of a little bit old school. A lot of the newer creators and the people who are
Yeah.
really staying active and getting the traffic and the revenue these days, it's because they're
Yeah.
really focused on Pinterest SEO, getting that traffic from Pinterest. So, educating my audience about that has been really beneficial for both the buyer and the seller side. So, that's what I would say is really working. At least right now, looking into 2026, that's what I've focused on for my own personal sites as well.
Awesome. Awesome advice, Chelsea. Well, thank you so much for coming along today. It's just unreal to introduce you to our community. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest now in Niche Investor for our members because it sounds like you've got fantastic sites on there that have been what's the word? Pre-vetted. Full disclaimer, you still need to learn how to do website due diligence. Learn that off us, guys. If you haven't for some reason, make sure you do our free masterclass if you're brand new to the podcast. But I'm presuming a lot of people listening to this, Chelsea, are already actively looking out there to buy websites and or sell them as well. So they should go and
Mhm.
check you out. We will put the links for Niche Investor in the show notes and everything. But yeah, I want to say a big thank you for sharing with our community the awesome opportunities for buying and selling blogs on Niche Investor. Thank you so much.